It's time for the show about the people and the places of the Carolinas with the occasional visitors. In addition to hosting the award-winning syndicated TV show Life in the Carolinas, Carl White writes a weekly syndicated column and now hosts this weekly show, the Life in the Carolinas podcast. Now you can hear the story about the stories. And now here's your host, Carl White.
Thomas Salley, great to see you, buddy.
Hey, Carl, how's it going?
Oh, it's going great. What's it been, a year? It's been a while, right?
Like maybe long, yeah, maybe longer, but...
Oh, time goes by so fast. And in your world, I know when we talked a few weeks ago and we were reminiscing a bit about when I first met you, which was a long time ago.
Yeah, that's right.
And Jay Raffaldini, we're doing a story at Raffaldini Vineyards, and I think you helped set that up even then, correct?
Maybe so, yeah, I believe that's right.
So you've been doing travel and tourism. So for folks who don't know who you are, you're the director of tourism for Wilkesboro, North Carolina.
That's right.
And you're spreading your wings quite a bit. I've been following your journey and hearing what people are saying about you, and it's really impressive. So why don't we start off by, if you wouldn't mind, just sharing how you discovered I'm going to call it the art of tourism promotion, because I do think it's artful, right?
Sure, yeah.
How did that happen for you?
Well, thanks, Carl. And it's great to be back here, and I appreciate you having me. I'd say for me, working in a place like Raffaldini Vineyards and seeing what happens, with guests coming in and we're able to kind of have a small, brief interaction with people, but you see that change in their mentality or their mood. We're able to lift their mood. They come up, they escape from wherever they're coming from, and they just get to relax and be, calm and refreshed. And so my whole career has been in hospitality and tourism, customer service. I worked in restaurants and retail and things like that. And, for a long time, I didn't necessarily see those skills as something that really I could leverage or really had, a whole lot of value, for lack of a better term. Right. But learning how to develop those skills and turn them into something that was an asset for me, and then leaning into that ability allowed me to really, I think, blossom into this tourism role and make a difference here in the community. So, it's been interesting, kind of self-discovery for me to learn about myself and what these skills are and how do I use them to the best of my ability and to make a difference in other people's lives. And, all that kind of cumulative experience together has kind of made me who I am today.
Oh, I think that's great.
Thanks.
I mean, when I listen to you share those, basically the task you were doing,
right?
To me, what you're describing is the experience that we all enjoy. When I go check into a hotel somewhere, I want people to be nice, at the front door. And I like places I go to frequently. I get to know the staff. I get to know the people who are cleaning, who are maintenance. I just like getting to know everybody, and definitely the general manager, and if I can, the ownership.
Right.
Because to me, people who have an inherent ability, maybe you say it inherited, it's like you're born with it, but I think it's something you nurture. Obviously, you've done that. But these are the things that we fondly reflect on.
Sure.
So you're in an industry now of where you've basically grown up and the learning how to do that from a hands-on standpoint, right?
Yes, sir.
Yourself. How do you think? Just go back with me for just a moment.
Okay.
What moment in time was it when on this journey you're like, I want to do this for the rest of my life. I really like making people happy.
Sure. Yeah. I think it was probably, fairly recently, I'd say within maybe the past 5 years or so. Wow. But just, kind of figuring out, like I said, that I thought that, this was my job and it was what I'm supposed to be doing, but it was part of my character. Right. And so, once I realized like, hey, this is who I am, then it kind of made sense to me that, this is who I am, regardless of whether I'm working in service or I'm working in some other type of profession. Maybe I'm in the back office or something. And I think that's how I'm able to make a difference in the tourism world because, you go to a hotel or a restaurant or something, you expect to be treated a certain way because that's the business of service. But, somebody who's in, an executive role or administrative role or a back office role, I sort of am in a little bit of both. I'm in the back office, but I'm also out on the street, and talking to people and stuff like that. But, that really helps me make a difference. And even when I deal with my colleagues, I try to just bring, humility and try to an attitude of service to anything that I do, so that I can, add value to something that and be, give value and add back to whatever it is that we're working on, and help people understand that when they do business with me, that they're going to get something out of it, right?
Right.
So,
are you saying that Thomas is living his best self and doing something that just happens to be the perfect job to let that express itself?
Yeah, it certainly does make it easy, and it certainly does allow me to be successful, I guess. Sure. In terms of it certainly is something that I've grasped onto in terms of, okay, this works, let's do more of that, and kind of following that path to see where it takes me.
And to the other side, you try things and that doesn't work.
Sure.
Doesn't ruin your day. It's just like, oh, well, that wasn't as productive as we thought. Let's tweak it and try it again.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Yeah. It's you're just navigating and trying to figure out what works and do more of that and less of the other, right?
Right. That's fantastic. So last year, I recall seeing something on, maybe it was LinkedIn or social media, of a industry trade meeting that you were at, and you were getting some positive things said about you. Talk about that from a standpoint of when you're on the road. So I get what you do, and we'll talk about that shortly.
Sure.
What you're doing in North Carolina and Wilkes County, but talk about when you're out working with people in your industry, if you will, from that top level.
Sure, yeah. This industry is. I went to school for public relations, but when I was at University of South Carolina, got to get that plug in there.
Yep.
The journalism school was right next door to the Parks, Recreation, and Tourism Management, college, right? So everybody in college, the joke was PRTM was, party right through May, right? So we're a very collegial bunch. So right. I don't have that. I didn't have that experience in college, undergrad, but coming into the tourism industry. Very collegial bunch, we all work together. We understand the power and the impact of a regional tourism, and there's so many different ways. Like I was at a Blue Ridge Parkway meeting earlier today, and was hanging out with the Realtor Association earlier today. So just these different collaborative efforts and regional cross-collaborative efforts that we can be a part of. We're all moving towards the same goal. So whether it's in Wilkes or it's across North Carolina or it's across the Blue Ridge region, or, I'm even part of the Southeast Tourism Society, which is 14 member states. So it goes from Oklahoma all the way up to like Maryland, So being able to make those connections with people and, develop and understand the relationships has just been super important. And, you have a network that you can draw from, again, is that, that give and take of, trying to serve each other. How can we, because I'm not competing with my friends in Arkansas,
No, of course not.
So, but we can try to help each other and make our destinations better, so.
Are you really even competing with people in Raleigh or Myrtle Beach or Winston or Kernersville or Boone? Every place has its own unique identity, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you're absolutely right. And even in the northwest corner of North Carolina, there's so much potential here that I think that, we're not trying to take more pieces of the pie. I think we're building an oven, right? We're making the pie bigger. It's much bigger than just trying to grab another slice of the pie.
Right.
So, across the High Country Host, the Yadkin Valley Heritage Charter, which I'm both a part of those groups, we have collaborations from, Watauga and Caldwell all the way over to Surrey and Yadkin and then beyond, when we talk about the state and things like that.
When you look at the territory you just talked about and think about your customer, if you will, which I imagine your customer is the traveler. Right?
Correct. Yep.
You're a person that everything that you do, the presentation that you're working on for the area you're working in, that's to let people know that this is a great place to visit and stay here, or when you're going over there, stop here. So it's that combination of presenting this needs to be part of your back road journey. Right.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And, I'll add to that is that another step in the process is that, we want you to come visit, but we want you to come and live here. We want you to build a business here, start a family here. This community has so many things to offer, and, we've got we've got room to grow, and people enjoy the lifestyle that you can live here in Wilkes. And so being a part of the community, I think, is another goal that we share.
Have you been doing this long enough in your position now to where you've actually seen some of that happen?
Yeah, absolutely. I don't want to name, there's too many to name really on a show like this, but, if you look around the towns of North Wilkesboro and Wilkesboro and you see people that have, maybe because of COVID or maybe prior to COVID, they vacationed here and then they decided to move here permanently. And then, they enrolled their kids in school and then say, hey, well, let's start a business here. And, our kids need this or the people need that. So let's serve the community by doing this thing. And I mean, there's, I can count on all my digits, all the different people that we've interacted with that are, kind of doing that here and seeing too the people who grew up here and then moved away and came back. I think that's an important part of the narrative as well. But there's a steady influx of, Wilkes is surprisingly cosmopolitan. You look around, you walk around the street, you talk to people, like you don't realize some of the things that people have done and places that they've been. I mean, it's really fascinating. And your show, of course, is a great way to highlight that. I mean, all the accomplishments that your guests have.
I see that all the time, Thomas. It truly is almost like it's that type of place that is idyllic from a standpoint of, that's a great place to retire.
Sure.
That's a great place to sneak away to. Mm-hmm. But people are finding that that it's a good place to live. I had a friend in not long ago, it was back in June, I think, and he described it. We were walking down the street in North Wilkesboro, and he said, "Gee, this is like a movie set." He said, "This is like, we passed the Liberty Theater, and we went into Taya's and had a cup of coffee, and then after that we went to Wilkesboro and walked around the courthouse." And he's like, "This is perfect." He was, I may look at getting a place here, So, but having that idea that, the area is doing really well on its preservation work, on basically setting the stage for a good show, right?
Yeah.
I mean, is that fair enough? I see that in Wilkesboro. I mean, like with the museum and then what I call the entertainment complex, right? Of where you're doing stuff all the time. And it really is that thing of where you're setting the stage, you're putting on a show, and people are showing up.
Yeah, that's right. Absolutely.
Talk about that. How has that changed? Because you've been here long enough now, right, to actually witness this evolution.
Yeah, I guess the only way I can really describe it is like it's like a buzz, there's just you have a few people working on something and then a few more people join in, and then before you know it, it becomes this whole collaborative effort. I mean, we've got, individual projects going on in Wilkesboro that are Wilkesboro specific. We've got North Wilkesboro has their North Wilkesboro specific projects. Then we've got town specific projects that we're working on. And then we've got initiatives with the county that we're all kind of working together. And then, just different departments within the community to develop like our outdoor economy action plan, where, we want to increase the, use the outdoor economy to leverage, tourism and economic development and overall health of the community and, just livability in general. So
let's break that down a moment.
Okay.
I get it. Outdoor economy, because I talk with a lot of people in your industry, and I understand what that means. But let's break that down to where we can talk about the true benefits of a community when this begins to happen. I mean, there are big things that are going on, like with the revival of the racetrack and bringing them, and that's gone beyond a revival now. So, but that's one thing. But then when you look at the whole pie, how does that make life better for people who live in Wilkes County and within this region?
Sure. Well, specifically to tourism, our funding comes from hotel and short-term rental occupancy taxes. So people who are visiting, tourists that are coming into the community are spending the night at a hotel or a motel or an Airbnb or a VRBO or something like that. And, they're leaving their money behind and then they're going home. So, we as a community get to use these tax dollars and this revenue that comes from tourism to build up our community assets. And so so our community has access to these assets 24/7, 365 all the time. But it's something else that's an additional draw to bring tourists and then potential, people who might develop a new business or might relocate here. And, if you are trying to start a business or you're trying to, entice a company to set up shop here, having all these wonderful, like all of our public lands across the county, the traffic, the community, the cost of living, all those things play a role. And, and tourism helps kind of bring down the cost of living because it spreads the burden across, not only the property owners and the taxpayers in Wilkes County, but also the tourists that are coming into the county. And, again, they don't live here. They don't use the infrastructure, but they stay for a little while and then they go home. So
they're staying in a hotel, they're eating at the restaurants, they're going to the museum, they're spending their money here.
Right. Yep.
And it seems to me like because of the tourism development, because of the initiative and the funding that is allocated for developing things that appeal to people who are traveling, at the same time, it benefits to all the people who live within the county. So over 60,000 people get the residual benefit, and they can get in their car and they can drive 10 or 15 minutes and they can sit and they can either watch a concert that's completely free or at a very small cost in a picturesque setting. And I mean, is that what you're saying?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, for sure.
That's perfect. That's a wonderful thing.
Yeah, and we can do more of that. With more tourism brings more opportunity to expand the offerings of Wilkes and all of its wonderful assets. So,
wow. All right. Okay. So I get it. So the good news is what you're describing and your role here and what makes us feel particularly good, because we cover both North and South Carolina, is we see that you have your professional counterparts doing this in other areas. So the good news is that, the rising tide brings up all the ships, right? So it makes it good for everybody. And that makes it a better thing for people who are on the West Coast or in the middle of the country. Well, where are we going to go on vacation?
Sure.
Well, let's go to the Carolinas.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, great. Let's now begin to delve into all the exciting projects so we can put some names to things and talk about the experience that people can have.
Sure, yeah. So, along the lines of the outdoor economy, I guess I'll start there, but several big events coming up, and as you referenced the Speedway, I mean, the outdoor economy is not only just mountain biking or hiking. I mean, it can be things like our barn quilt trail or, driving on the Blue Ridge Parkway or, go into a race. I mean, go into an outdoor concert. I mean, we encompass all those different outdoor amenities as a part of this outdoor economy. So, but we're seeing like motorbike races, mountain bike races. The Wilkes is the interscholastic, middle and high school team that they've really developed a kind of a the high school and middle school age kids to travel the state and do mountain biking. Rendezvous State Park. I know you had Representative Elmore on here. He was behind getting Rendezvous designated as a state park, and that's going to open up a whole world of opportunity to create more recreation for the county. We've got our outdoor festivals. I mean, you guys are regulars at the Peach Festival and Carolina of the Fall and the Apple Festival, so you all know all about that.
And that's huge, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, when you look at the number of people that those festivals bring to the area, and truly, unless it's just a monsoon that pops up, it's an incredible experience.
Sure.
It's one of those real Americana experiences that's special. And the area puts them on really well, right?
We do, yeah. We it's a great experience. I think that the festivals that we have, they represent the vibe, for lack of a better term, the vibe of the community. When you go, you feel safe, you feel welcome, you feel, just embraced by the community. Ethos that people just are interested in learning more about you and where you're from and how they can get you kind of reeled into the community, So.
One of the things that I really like about the events is it's not just the event itself, but it's the people who are making it happen. When I look at the Apple Festival and I look at the Brushy Mountain Rueting Club, and these guys have been doing this for a long time, right? So it's a civic organization that they pull together and and they put their efforts into making this happen.
Absolutely.
A lot of volunteers it takes to bring that about, and we've been covering that event for years. and the reason is because I realize the sacrifice that these people are making.
Yeah.
And same thing with the Peach Festival. Yeah, it's not as big, but it's started and it's growing, right?
Yeah.
So don't you think that says a little something about the community as well? Because, these events, while the towns and the county will be there from a service standpoint to support it, but the people with their feet on the ground, the ones who sit around the big table and say, okay, Bob, how many of these vendors are you going to work with? Who's going to handle the safety? Who's going to handle all of these different things?
Sure.
It's not a government action while it works together.
Right.
It's community people making that happen. What does that say about the community?
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head, Carl. I mean, one of the things that we sell as a tourism entity and a destination of Wilkes and the boroughs and all that is that, we'll never be the most superlative community. We'll never have the most breweries or the most miles of trail or the highest peaks or whatever. But that story of Wilkes and how the ingenuity and the creativity and the stick-to-itiveness of the people who live here and how determined they are to be successful and to create a good quality life no matter what that life might throw at them, we all know the story of kind of Wilkes and how things have gone here, and to see that sheer determination. I mean, you look at the Speedway's been closed for 27 years, and many people thought that would never happen, and look where we are now. I mean, it says something to the resiliency of the community, and that that's a big part of the story that we want to tell people in tourism is that when you come to Wilkes, you're a part of that story, and these character traits that we all exhibit and express. We can lift each other up, and I think that when tourists come here, they feel that optimism and that resiliency and that ingenuity and that spark of creativity that the community here just has, and it just it's contagious. I mean, there's no.
It really is about the people, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's about the people who are here. It's not that there's not disagreements and arguments and all of that, but hey, when it's showtime, it's showtime.
That's right. Yeah.
We got to put the show on.
Yeah.
Merle Fest, wow.
Yeah, absolutely.
Big. I mean, big is an understatement. I mean, as far as a music event on the national and even internationally recognized. And
Merle Fest, what it does for the community. I mean, you're talking about in excess of $12 million back to nonprofits, and again, same thing with the Peach Festival and Apple Festival, and so on and so on.
Right.
The community finds ways to grab those funds and put them back into the community with services that are needed, and help people.
Wow! So big events that bring people. So we've got our festivals. Merle Fest from the Americana standpoint, Carolina in the Fall. Yep. Just an incredible experience for people there, more intimate, and I love that story because it's family driven, and there again. People who are volunteering, putting this all together, that speaks to the community. Then you got Faith Fest.
That's right.
All these great experiences.
And to your point, I mean, because of the community and because of the sphere that we provide, the artists feel comfortable, wandering around the ground, the festival grounds. People can interact with other artists and their, their fans, one-on-one. They can take pictures together. I mean, I was at the food tent at Merle Fest, and one of the guys from Old Crow Medicine Show was like standing in front of me in line getting a burger. He was asking me where to find the best burger. So. Sure.
People are people. Right?
Yeah,
so
exactly.
people in the entertainment business, well, they're just people.
Yeah, that's right.
And when environments are comfortable enough to where they feel comfortable engaging, then that's a good thing. Brian and Laura Call, they have their Mash House Entertainment Project, and I was talking with Wade Jennings, and I mean, he's traveled all over the place, and I said, so what's it like here, and then he went down the list, of talking about why visiting this area was so comfortable for him.
Yep.
And we sat and he just opened up and shared this big personal part of his life, and he said, I just like it here, it just feels good.
Yeah, that's right.
And I've heard that from a lot of different artists. That says something.
I think it does too. Yeah.
Does that give you a competitive edge, do you think, Thomas?
I think it will. I think, with more awareness and, that word of mouth is certainly a critical part. And, back to my career at the winery, I mean, word of mouth was our number one referral source, and so, giving people that type of experience where what do they feel when they come here, and then what do they feel for this place when they leave, and then they hopefully share that with their neighbors and friends and things like that. And absolutely, it will make a difference. I
was talking with Seth at Dooley's some months ago, and he was, his family, all that they've done and trying to save some of the old buildings and to go through that preservation work, which we certainly have a big heart for preservation. And he just talked about other people and how they were doing good things.
Yeah.
Usually when I'm talking to people, they're telling me how great they are. Not always, but I mean often,
Sure.
But we've already figured they're pretty great. That's why we're talking to them. But he's just one example of many people who we've chatted with who are supportive of other people.
That's right.
Recently, there was new ownership for the Liberty Theater.
Yeah,
right?
That's right.
So that's a county institution, right? I mean, we've got a big theater, but then that on Main Street in North Wilkesboro, that has an iconic feel, and it's got history, and now it has new ownership. But the new ownership, it couldn't be more perfect. I mean, you've got owners of that have a new business in town already. I mean, it's not been here that long, right?
That's right.
Block.
Yep.
And then you've got Mark Cook and his wife, and their business is an institution, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And to see the pictures and the smiles and the happiness on their faces, that was wonderful.
Absolutely, yeah. I think that's a key. That's a great partnership to highlight as kind of this established, business. And you could call Cook's a tourism business. I mean, sure. they cater to the outdoor enthusiast, and they provide equipment and outfitting experiences and stuff like that. And you have the Zolpos, that are basically new in town, so to speak, and they partner together. And I think seeing that, that influx of just people willing to take a chance on the community, and then seeing somebody who has already been established here take a chance on them, that collaboration I think is going to be key, and you're going to see that snowball. I mean, I'm already seeing there's several projects, that are coming to the forefront where people are doing the same thing, where you have somebody who's in town, maybe somebody that's relatively new, they kind of team up, and it really kind of lowers the burden or lowers the barrier, and certainly the risk barrier for entry into some kind of business venture, just gets people feel comfortable with risk and taking a chance on the community. And that's really what we need. We need people to step out and just, step out on faith and do, because we're on the rise. I mean, this is,
sure.
This is an important time. So
it's exciting, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, I've been to a few public meetings, which you were at as well, and I would sit and listen, and I've been in a lot of public meetings on tourism around the Carolinas, and there's always people who are very optimistic. There are people who are not. Primarily, when I listen, I extrapolate what I'm hearing. It's just not knowing, not being aware of full pictures.
Right.
But once people finally begin to move together in the same direction of, hey, this isn't about me, this is about us, and let's see what happens if we can get more people in the county and town. Yeah,
that's right.
Good things usually happen.
That's right. Yep.
So I think that's a really exciting thing. Let's talk about some of the organizations that you're also involved with, because I think all of that has to do with tourism. Sure. And that's what I wanted our visit today to kind of lean into, Thomas, is how we're part of the big picture.
Yeah.
How I have friends in Texas and other areas who do shows, TV shows like we do, Life in the Carolinas. It's Texas version or Alabama version, whatever, or New York version. So everybody's kind of got the same journey. We're on this path of let's find a good story, something that's got some heart, something that feels good and that's real. There's an appetite for that. It's not commercially the most successful thing to do, but it is the best thing to do, right? So having said that, your work, you've got to get heads in beds, basically.
Right.
You've got to get people in town, but you also have to serve.
That's right.
So talk about that marriage of the two and why it's important that there's that symbiotic relationship.
Yeah, one of the things that I found that, again, it's not really something that I consider a skill, but, going out into the community and just making connections with people and being there and being a part of the conversation, and you don't necessarily immediately see reap a benefit from that. Establishing a relationship with somebody or something. But again, it goes back to kind of providing value and establishing yourself as I consider myself to be like a facilitator, right? So if I might know somebody who knows somebody, or, somebody says, well, I'm looking for this or I'm looking for that. And it's like, okay, well, you need to go talk to so-and-so because just the other day they told me, that they wanted to do this. And it's like, all right, let's get those people together, right? And then they go off and work on whatever it is that they're working on. So that's one of the areas that I see myself as a skill, and it took me a while to kind of understand and how to leverage that, right? But I also view my role as a community servant because I want the Tourism Development Authority to be visible in the community as someone who is, or an entity that is, because like you said, education is a big key component of what is going on, and to help people understand what it is that we're doing and seeing how it benefits them in real tangible ways. So, we talked about, on a broader scale, a regional scale, the, High Country Host, the Yadkin Valley Heritage Charter, which is a tourism-based marketing organization for our surrounding counties, including Wilkes, and then the Southeast Tourism Society, which is a 14-state kind of covering the Southeast. But here locally, I serve on the Wilkes Healthy Action Team, which is a part of the Health Foundation, the Chamber of Commerce Board, the Library Endowment Committee. We talked about the Outdoor Economy Action Committee. I also serve on the State Wine and Grape Council, thanks to my experience at working at Raffledini. That's been a really fun, the State Department of Ag and the Wine and Grape Council works to promote wineries and visitation to wineries. And so, Wilkes has 8 currently, but coming up, hopefully there'll be 10 or 11 soon, in the next year or so. So we have a big part to play in that, right? We're part of the Yadkin Valley AVA, which is 20 years old this year. So that's an important milestone. Yeah. Those are just a few of the kind of the ways that I get involved in the community. And I'm my bandwidth, unfortunately, it doesn't allow me to do I'd love to do more, and I'll probably will rotate around and do some different things. I'm helping out with like the Wilkes Youth Life Development, Luke Jarvis and those guys to really, I have 2 young kids, so seeing our kids get the same opportunities that I was fortunate to have is important to me. And things like that, just making sure that we're setting our young people up for success. I mean, we were talking earlier today, a statistic about, our population, our county population is down about 5%, but our working age population is down about 15%. So, we need to cultivate the young people here and show them that and this is kind of veering off the subject of tourism, but like the community college has that tourism or the tuition promise program, where you can, if you graduate from Wilkes, Asher, Allegheny, make at least a, you graduate, you make at least a C or something, you get a free tuition at Wilkes Community College. I mean, how awesome is that?
That's fantastic. And
then you can roll that right into NC Tech Pass and get a, free tech training and a job placement with a tech company, making great money,
which is amazing,
completely free. So we just, I think as leaders in the community and as adults in the community to, show people that, it's not all bad, and there's a way, there's a way out of this, and there's a way to better yourself, and just helping, show by doing rather than, do as I do, not do as I say, right? Something like that.
I think it's not only is there not some good, but I think there's more good than bad.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Bad just, gets a lot of attention, but there's definitely a lot of good things going on. Well, obviously, after listening to that list of your involvements, that's why you're able to connect people.
That's right. Yeah.
I get calls occasionally, well, can you introduce me to so-and-so? And I'm like, and I know so-and-so, right?
Yeah.
But I know that what they're wanting from so-and-so would not want me to give them that phone number.
That's right, yeah, exactly.
So there's that when we are not willing to be part of the service, Rotary has a thing, service above self, right? Mm-hmm. Service above self. And I've been doing stories with Rotarians for years, and I see it. I see it. I mean, I see guys that are all dressed up, serious, and the next thing you know, they're out ringing a bell, or they're out volunteering, or they're out doing this and that, and they're getting dirty.
Yeah.
And then they get cleaned up, and they go back to the office, right, and do the hard work. Service above self.
That's right.
That idea of service above self, for some reason, is hard for people to grasp.
Yeah.
And, well, I'm too busy. I've got my own problems. I've got things that I got to take care of.
Yeah.
But you run a heavy schedule. Mm-hmm. So would you say that when you take time to go do these things, even though, okay, I kind of like to be at home now, but you do it anyway, has that enriched your life, Tom? Other than professionally, has that enriched your personal life?
Yeah, immensely, Carl. I mean, it's really, it's been transformative, I would say. Just, and I struggle with, like, it's not an ego thing, right? Like, I'm not doing this to make myself feel better, but just genuinely seeing people, seeing people prosper and seeing that smile on their face when they've been beating their head against the wall to try to solve a problem for months or maybe years, and then that opens a door, right? There's
a breakthrough.
Yeah, I mean, it's just very, just somebody saying thank you, just something as simple as that. It really just is very special to me, and I try not to think too much about, like, well, like I said, or like ego or whatever, where it's like, well, I'm this whatever, but it's just, that seeing the, because it is very abstract. Like my marketing and public relations is very abstract. So it's hard to grasp some kind of satisfaction from, because sometimes you put things out there in the ether and then you don't really know if it made a difference or not, right?
When somebody says, well, what did that do for me?
Yeah.
Well, how do you feel about it? I felt good, but did anybody else care? And I was like, yeah, probably.
Yeah, right, yeah.
I mean, sometimes that's all you can do.
Yeah, exactly.
But there is faith and belief in the fact that, putting a good word out, doing something that's solid, following some very solid principles on marketing, advertising, promotions.
Yeah.
There is a science to it.
Sure. Yeah.
There is a measurable thing that, from the global standpoint, this tactic works.
That's right.
Maybe it's going to take you longer because you don't have as many resources to put toward it.
Yeah.
If you had more resources, you could reach more people. Mm-hmm. So it's just going to take you longer, but you'll still get there.
That's right. Yeah. And that's what that's why I have really leaned into this sort of service aspect, because it is a way kind of for me to set myself apart and set the Wilkes and Wilkesboro Tourism Development Authority apart from other, entities like that, is that we to provide that little bit extra,
Sure.
And having people come back to me and say, well, like, this happened or that happened, it helps satisfy that part of me that, again, you do so much that you just don't know what the result's going to be. And then to have somebody come back and give you immediate feedback that says yes or no, like, yes, this worked, thank you, or no, that didn't work. But, then it's like, well, try this, but that is really helpful to help me know that I'm on the right path and doing the right thing and keep going. Nice.
Let's talk about kind of the behind the scenes day to day. And when you're sitting, you have a board meeting with the town, with the mayor, and all the people.
Sure.
that make it all happen. You know, you have a meeting, right?
Right.
You're sitting there, and someone's dealing with sewer and water, and someone's dealing with fire, and somebody's dealing with infrastructure issues for the event. Chairs have to go out, security, all these things have to happen.
Right.
And you're there talking about your side, which is tangible yet intangible, because we're inviting people in, writers and producers, and we're hosting, doing all of those type of things.
Yeah.
So how this is important, I think. How does your team, the team that you're part of, when they look at the role that you're doing and people that do what you do, so tell me what the value proposition is there. How do they see what you do compared to the guy who's out there with, who's actually directing traffic? Or not that you don't direct traffic occasionally, if you need to. Maybe you don't. I don't know. You know what I'm saying?
I would.
I mean, because it's one of those interesting things. Everybody loves it when the news piece runs, or you're the centerfold in the magazine. It's the hard work. It's all of these events and encounters that you're having with people who tell the stories.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, I think Wilkesboro, just to kind of brag on Wilkesboro, I mean, they do a great job with culture, that we talk about the Wilkesboro way. And I think what you're alluding to is just that, we all do our part to make this bigger picture thing happen. And so when I report on my end, it may not have a direct impact on the, our wastewater team or our, public works team or something like that, but they all know. And we all try to recognize the role that each department played in making that thing happen. And, we can all celebrate those victories together. So, I think that we all recognize that we're one unit. We're one town and we're one community. So, just maintaining that kind of inward focus towards each other and, recognizing that, we all have, because I can't, I have a volunteer board. I'm a one-person staff. There's no way I can do it by myself. So, I have to have the support of these other departments to make these things happen. And if we want to see growth and we want to see bigger things happen, then, we have to lean into each other. So, we absolutely, and I think they understand, and our team, again, our executive team, our administrative team, the commissioners, our council, the mayor, they all do a great job of helping convey that bigger picture to the entire staff and the people who serve in Wilkesboro, that they understand, their investment into this project, this town, is expressed in these other ways, and that may or may not directly exhibit what they specifically did, but we all see that this collective effort yielded this result. Does that make sense?
No, it makes all the sense in the world. I completely get it.
Yeah.
So you've got a good team, so that matters, and that team has helped you get some bigger attention as well.
Yeah.
So that's a real positive thing.
Absolutely.
What do you see in the future? When I look at where, since you and I met, and since you took the position that you're in now, wow, I'm like, the Wilkesboro is really doing well from a show standpoint, from being able to put events on and continually do it time and time again. And so you not only do it, you've proven you can do it and do it well.
Thank you.
And now you're expanding out and doing some things to help the county as well, just because that seems to be the organic process, and with the development of a larger tourism budget and helping to make all that happen.
Yep.
Having said that, and looking at the master plans of different communities within the county, and I'm looking at, wow, so many things are either happening or starting to happen. What else? What else is going to evolve to keep this energy and excitement going? Do you feel more pressure now? There's like, geez, I got to be a little bit more creative or find some more magic, because we got this. It's going. The shows. Yeah. It's just like, okay, let's do these again. We did them last year. Okay, rinse, repeat. We do the same thing over. Now we've got to find new things. Now we broaden out. What do we do for Ron? How do you tackle that bigger picture?
Yeah, that's a great question, and I'm not gonna lie, I feel a little bit of pressure. So, but like you said, there's certain things that we do well, and we'll be able to do those on a bigger scale, because we recognize that those work, and we've already had the opportunity to develop those strategies kind of on a, Wilkesboro, because Wilkesboro had the TDA and we had a smaller budget. We were able to exercise those. There's other aspects of tourism that I'm planning to get into. Data and research is a big part of the sort of the bigger picture. If you look at it as a feedback loop, you get the certain, you put it out there, and then you get feedback in the sense of like, where are people staying? How much are they paying for a room? Where are they? What are they attending? Where are they going? Where are they coming from? So being able to have access to those data points helps us kind of color in between the lines of what is actually happening in the tourism picture in Wilkesboro. And some of those data firms and things like that. You can get pretty sophisticated with data, but it comes at a cost, right? And they're expensive. So we have to be selective about what we're going to be able to break off and decide, does this serve the goals that we're trying to accomplish as a county and as the towns and so on. I think too, again, going back to your earlier point about the different departments within the town and even on the bigger scale with the county, I see myself and the tourism, and I look at the tourism and economic development and like the chamber as like a three-legged stool, right?
Oh,
like
sure.
we all have to have each other. And, if I want to have more and different tourism amenities, then we've got to have, jobs for people to work, and then maybe they'll do a side hustle and start some like Mick and Ainsley at the Block and the theater, and they got to feel comfortable here to take a risk, and they've got to have a place to live, so we got to have housing. So, we're all trying to tackle these goals that are going to sort of reciprocate in and around the community. So, again, being part of the team in Wilkesboro and being a public servant, how do we address these kind of core issues in our community that are systemic in a lot of different communities? I mean, housing, childcare, water and wastewater. I mean, these are all big structural issues for communities across the country, not just Wilkes, but, can we develop that competitive edge, and can we, come up with the innovative solution that helps us,
And
we're working on it.
no, but there's optimism there.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
I think it's one thing to be in Charlotte and try to figure out where you're going to build the next development because the land is already occupied, right? Mm-hmm. But Wilkes is the largest landmass county in the state of North Carolina, right? So there's more space to do things. So that's one thing. Build an infrastructure and running sewer and pipe. I mean, I think the people in the towns and the communities have proven they can do that. So that's just a structural and financial task to deal with. But it can be done.
That's right. Yep.
So is it looked at? And obviously, I'm not asking you to look into a crystal ball, but you can look at what's actually happening now from your perspective, from what you are seeing from your standpoint. Do you see that there's enough initiative? There are enough people who want to see Wilkes, this region, grow and do even better. So are there enough of those people that you interact with that you're like, I don't know how we're going to do all of this, but I believe we will because we've got the right players to make it happen. Yeah.
Well, we're certainly on our way. I mean, I'd say if we're not there yet, we're very close. And, just seeing the energy in the room when I go from like you, meeting to meeting, and, these topics come up and there's, sort of a gang of people that are willing to just jump in and get their hands dirty. That's what really excites me, and seeing the different members of the community. I think there are more people and different types of people that we can get involved in these conversations, and we need to get involved in these conversations to make sure that, we as an entire community move forward together. Right. We don't leave anybody behind. I think that's very important. But we're well on our way, and again, it goes back to education and just that sheer willingness to just do something. Right. So we're very close, and we're getting there. I mean, every day I see a little bit more snowball kind of. So I'm excited about that, and just the with the influx of people that are moving to the community, they're willing to, they're already invested. I mean, they're here for a day or a week or two, and they're in love with the place. They want to get involved. They want to make a difference, and so it's very, very exciting.
And it is a blend of people, isn't it?
That's right. Yeah.
And we do have younger people. You're here, but younger people than you.
That's right.
And they're participating. They're getting involved. And I think that's a wonderful thing.
Me too.
Wow.
Me too.
This is great, Thomas. So this is clearly you don't have enough to do. No. Right? There's just not enough opportunity for you. Is there anything else you want to cover?
I appreciate that. No, I think just encourage folks to tell other people about Wilkes and North Wilkesboro and Rhonda and Ferguson and Boomer and Hayes and all the wonderful places that we have here. I mean, just sharing with people the heart of the community and being that heart of the community when you go somewhere else, and just we were talking about, like, I was at a concert recently. I had my Wilkesboro shirt on, and then there was a young lady that was standing next to me, and she said, oh, I'm getting married at Big R Orchards or whatever. Right. And, just talking about how the narrative has changed about things like moonshine and NASCAR, and how we were the butt of jokes for a long time, and how that narrative has flipped, where we people are envious of these things, and we own that. I think that's really, really special. And let's lean into what makes us unique and authentic.
Sure.
And just share that with people and invite them to come visit and take part in being a part of the community. And I think once people see and experience this place, then they'll want to be here too.
Yeah, the place will do its magic, right?
That's right. Yeah, absolutely.
That's great, Thomas. Well, as usual, I enjoy our conversations. It's invigorating because I know you're in the trenches. You're doing the work. You're talking to the people. You're not just the people here, but you're inviting other people to come in. You're inviting writers to come in. Let me see, before we close, share with me one of those moments that you invited a media group in, or you're sitting there having dinner with someone, and the next thing you know, it just turned into something great. Why don't you just share one of those moments and kind of how important it is for not only you to do that, but for other people to participate in that process?
Yeah, well, one comes to mind is I had a couple come up, and they were here on a specific mission to cover we partnered with the Blue Ridge National Heritage Area to create a crafts trail. So we were highlighting 3-dimensional crafts. So it wasn't necessarily like painting, but it was like pottery and glass and different works of art that are 3-dimensional crafted stuff. And so they were here on a specific mission to collect information and tour for 1 or 2 stories for one particular outlet. And they were going to stay for 2 nights and then go. And they ended up spending an extra night and then most of the next day here, because they just they were so enthralled by what they had seen and heard and done. And everywhere they went, it's like, well, you got to go check out so and so, and you got to go see so and so. And every place they went to, it delivered on that promise. And like I said, they spent an extra night here, and then they spent all that next day exploring. And then we've had several, because of that trip and that experience with those particular writers, we've had not only those 2 articles, but they've published 2 or 3 more articles that came from that 3-day, what was originally a 2-day visit turned into a 3.5-day visit, and 2 articles turned into 6 articles. So just something like that when people come up, I mean, we open our doors and we open our hearts to them, So, and it wasn't a push. You weren't trying to, oh gosh, I got to find something. It's all organically present. Yeah. And like I said, when we go to places in the community and walk down the street and they encounter different people, and those people know me and they know what we're doing, and then I introduce them to them, and then they say, well, you got to go see my friend so-and-so, or you got to go check out this whatever, and then it just it goes from there. I mean,
nice.
Yeah.
Nice. It's a good thing, isn't it?
It's a wonderful thing.
Great. Thanks, Thomas. Great to see you.
Thank you, Carl. It's good to see you again. Thanks, Tim.
Thanks for listening to the Life in the Carolinas podcast. If you enjoyed your time with us, please visit the show's website at lifeinthecarolinas.com. Join our mailing list, and we'll keep you updated every week on what we have coming up and other interesting things around the Carolinas. We value you as a podcast subscriber. We'll see you next week. And remember what Carl says, it's never a bad time for a good story.